righty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are now live and direct. We got episode 24 in the mix. Shout out to squads_D app for coming in, tuning in, showing some love. Before we get started, as always, if you got an iPhone or Android, do yourself a favor, go to the App Store and or the Play Store. Download the FTX app. Do yourself a favor. Keep up to date with the latest cryptocurrencies and NFTs. And without further ado, I am your host, Gaddis TV. What's going on, y'all? And let's get to it. All right, yeah, we are live and direct. So first off, I want to say thank y'all very much for coming in, tuning in, and showing some love. And shout out again to squads_D app. Really, without further ado, both of you, if you don't mind, it doesn't really matter who goes first. Just kind of introduce yourselves. Let us know really who you are, what you were doing before the whole crypto scene, and what got you got involved in the crypto scene as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. We're excited to be here. I'm Stepan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Squads. Before crypto, I was doing sort of legal work. I had worked in private client work doing corporate M&A for about 3 years, and before that worked in Magic Circle law firms doing mergers and acquisition and like corporate law. So before that, lived in London for about 6 years, kind of like a more traditional legal career basically. And then about a year ago, started really getting into crypto and thinking, how I can transition on a full-time basis. And DAO tooling seemed attractive at the time just because it's kind of linked to, in many ways, disrupting the industry I'm familiar with sort of corporate and dealing with LLCs, restructurings and things like this. So that was interesting to jump into crypto and see how that was disrupting what I knew how to do. And started looking at DAO tooling and connected with my friend Danny, who I know for many years now. He's got sort of finance background. I'll let him speak to that in a bit. And so we kind of connected on the fact that we should probably start doing something in the DAO space. Then discovered Solana, and things kind of happened after that. So for us, it's been a really quick and exciting journey. And now we're doing a podcast with ThugBirdz. So you can see that we're moving up in the world. So that's exciting. Danny, I'll let you speak as well.
Yeah, my name is Danny, guys. Hi, everyone. I'm CEO and co-founder of Squads. Known Stepan for good part of my life here. And I'm kind of coming from the finance and Stepan and banking background. Not a lot of interesting stuff, probably. When you hear finance and banking, it's just, it's whatever you imagine, it's what it was. So yeah, we me and Stepan, we always, we look at the crypto space, and one of the stories that really stood out was the DAO story, and we've always looked back at it and thought that this should have been done right. And we always went back to it, and that's kind of how it started, the idea itself. So yeah, and Squads became Squads with the amazing logo you're looking at probably right now.
Nice. So I guess with both of y'all being in the background of kind of finance, things like that, we'll call it, I don't know, 3 years ago, kind of, I guess before you kind of got introduced in the crypto scene. Did you see something like this kind of being in place, with crypto, or was that something that y'all really didn't see that was going to be in place?
Well, when I worked, because in 2017, during that boom, I actually worked in this huge law firm that had head office in London, and I was kind of flying back and forth. And when the boom was happening, we started getting these memo requests from different offices around the world saying, the clients are asking what's going to happen, how will that work, what's Bitcoin? And so they were I think pretty much all of the law firms started to sort of transition into making notes and becoming experts on blockchain. And it was, at the time, it was a lot about actually the technical stuff. People wanted to know what's blockchain, how it works, how this ledger operates. And I think, and as soon as the sort of the correction happened and Bitcoin went down for a bit, it just completely subsided. But that's when I really discovered kind of the magnitude it can have. And I think after 2017, we kind of kept tabs on it, but obviously, kind of life took over for a bit. And then, I think about I think COVID also had its own kind of effect on that, and we kind of started rethinking many things alongside what was happening around the world. And so yeah, I mean, really got into it about a year ago. But yeah, in 2017, it was clear that it can disrupt things, and it showed, right? Because like I was sitting in this super traditional, like 100-year-old law firm from London, and they already like were making memos on what's blockchain. So that definitely had some reach at the time. But yeah, I wish obviously I got in 2017 and kind of was red pilled sooner. But I'm glad that I'm here. And as I hear on Twitter, we're still early guys. So that's probably still have some time to grow.
Indeed, 100% on that one. With the, I guess for the people that are listening as well, would you let us know what, I guess your project is, what I guess, what y'all's planning for the project, and really what it does?
Yeah, I mean, so Squads is essentially a set of tools which have a user-friendly focus that we're building for DAOs, right? And essentially the idea there is that we're trying to simplify DAO management, simplify certain types of DAO creation, and just make it as accessible as we can, right? And the core idea for Squads is like the version 1, which we released on mainnet. It's about it's an on-chain governance client for NFT communities, because Solana is very rich in those, and right now they're using sort of gated servers on Discord, and we kind of wanted to give some extra tools to NFT communities that so that they can have their disposals to actually have governance for they're actually like ever expanding communities that they have. So that was like the first iteration, which was already live on mainnet, and the second one is kind of actually delivering on the name that we have for the whole project, is essentially delivering the primitive, which we call a squad, right? So a squad is like this small group of people who are focused on specific goals and who are like targeting specific areas of development, right? And what a squad is from like technical perspective is this essentially a smaller illiquid DAO, or like a multisig, you can call it, where essentially a group of people can have this governance framework for themselves, control a joint treasury, and by voting, right, they can either send assets from the joint treasury, they can also deposit assets, they can add and remove people, and they can vote on proposals. And from a product perspective, the idea there is that like we believe that the trend for DAOs will move from these sort of large groups of a few thousand people that are just voting on everything together, to this sort of more complex structure where you have different essentially departments within a DAO, right? And each squad can act as one of those departments. You can have a treasury squad where 20 or 30 trusted members of the community hold the treasury, and the DAO on a larger level can vote, let's buy a bird, right? And then actually the treasury squad will do the transaction, right, and send the funds in the right direction. Same thing you can do, for design, partnerships, outreach, whatever you want, right? It's more about having this sort of separate entity that's connected to the larger DAO that actually focuses on specific area of development. So that's what sort of B2 for Squads we're getting out for DevNet really soon. And as soon as that's done, we're going to just focus on getting it to mainnet as soon as possible, just because like it's super important for people to use the treasury, and obviously on DevNet it's still on a test basis. And we kind of expect it to be quite useful for the community on the DAO side, but also generally on like a multi side, because Solana doesn't have a UI multisig, right? It just has command line multisig, and many teams that are building on Solana, they're holding their treasuries in like individual wallets, or I know some teams that are holding it on Ethereum and those is safe. So there's definitely different ways that people are having issues with that, and so we're definitely trying to deliver it as soon as possible to allow if you have like a team building on Solana and you have a treasury, you can definitely hold it with us. And the reason it's going to take a while, like a few weeks at least, to get to mainnet from DevNet is because we're going to be doing an audit and making sure it's super secure, at the same time as open sourcing the code, doing the bug bounty. So there's going to be a lot of steps involved in kind of giving that secure credibility to the app, and just making sure that like nothing bad can happen, because people are going to be holding assets there eventually. So that's the rough idea for the project. And then for the for what's to come is going to be essentially like two tracks. Like one is the NFT track, where we are going to expand significantly on the functionality for NFT-based governance, right? Add more complex voting mechanisms to allow, more complex voting power allocation. Right now, just one NFT, one vote. Then one of the bigger interesting use cases that we have is, many NFT communities want to route percentage of the royalties from the founders to the treasuries that can be then dispensed to the members. So that's the next thing we can potentially, we're kind of scoping it out right now to allow the NFT-based governed, DAOs to have a treasury linked to their DAO and actually receive royalties there and then dispense them. So yeah, I mean that's the thoughts that we have. I mean, until the end of the year, it's going to be pretty straightforward. We won with a couple more hot fixes and some UI things that we're gonna fix, and then V2, to allow multisig to happen on Solana. So that's where we're at the moment.
Nice. When did you and kind of y'all first think about it? Because I know you said things have been going quick. Because as far as I know, we're not the only DAO that are working with y'all as well. When did you originally think of the idea compared to like now? What kind of time frame was that?
Well, I mean, it kind of started off in May when Solana Season Hackathon rolled around, and we saw that there was no DAO tooling solutions on Solana, and we kind of came up with this idea that Solana allows for really cheap deployment of DAOs and cheap management. On Ethereum, to deploy this kind of an illiquid DAO, essentially multisig, can cost up to a few $100. And on Solana, it's just a couple of, it can be less than $1, right? So I think that's when we thought, okay, so now that part is becoming accessible, but the UI and like the understanding of this concept is still not there yet. So we kind of focused on, okay, we're going to bring it to a good UX, simplify the process there. And the original idea was always this kind of squad, right? Like it doesn't have a liquid token. So it's about actually controlling the membership within this group, right? So you need to vote. You want to add or remove someone every time. And over the summer, we kind of built the alpha, built all the on-chain code and sort of figured out the architecture. And then starting from September, it was about like focusing on the UI, refactoring the front-end code. We could have moved quicker, right? But the point is that like somewhere close to the end of the summer, we finally kind of got things together, managed to go at this full time. And so that obviously, after September, things accelerated much faster than they were happening during the summer. So yeah, I mean, it took about 6 months to sort of get here, and we're approaching our release. So we wish we'd done it quicker, but we're also up. At least now we're here, so we're pretty excited about it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You don't want to start too early and have hiccups, things like that.
Sure.
With I guess for projects or people that are listening in general and are thinking, hey, I want to have something like what Squads is offering. Or even debating on, hey, do I need it? Do I not need it? Type ordeal. I guess what would you say to those projects on the benefits of y'all?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. So I think like on the NFT side, we're gonna, we're still like in beta and we're focusing on like actually shipping stuff. But I also have like a separate track. We got a few content people on board to actually like do a little more content on explaining, best practices for governance, best practices for structuring a DAO, and things like this. Because many people on Solana actually don't have Ethereum experience. Like Solana is their first time Web3 exposure, and so on that front, we have a responsibility to actually share the lessons that Ethereum DAOs have learned, and actually maybe help out on governance side on Solana in general. So what I would say to NFT communities, what we're doing, right, as on-chain governance. So even though Solana is really cheap, any vote or any proposal initiation still costs some SOL. It's not much. Like the initiation of proposal is 0.007, and the voting is 0.001 SOL. So it's minimal, but it's still a fee, right? And so I think my advice would be is like, based on Ethereum best practices as well, is you should really have like a multi-stage governance, right? So like first you start a discussion on Discord, right? And you have the discourse there, you get, gather opinions of people. And then potentially, like, the way Ethereum does it, like you do a forum post, right? It's more so it has like some links and it has a big description and it's like more focused, right? And then you can do maybe an off-chain vote via Discord or on a forum. And once that is there, right, and kind of went through this filtration, you then go and sort of put it on chain. So I guess my point is that the client that we have, and kind of Grape is providing stage one, right? You discuss it on Discord, you can vote there, and we're kind of providing the last stage. So we get it that there's still some middle ground that in tooling sense still needs to be covered on Solana, right? Because there's Ethereum has boardroom and essentially like there's more lightweight governance tools that allow to sort of discuss things and vote on them. So we are kind of the last stage, right? Because we are fully on chain, right? And so I think we definitely would advise projects to try out squads and sort of come to us and on board. But my main advice probably would be, and kind of my belief is that, the tooling that you use doesn't really make you a DAO, right? What makes you a DAO is actually if you have a structure within your community, if you have specific goals, if you have core members, if you identify, who's contributing and doing what. And it's more about that. And then the tooling is there to help you make things more effective or, put things on chain so like no one can dispute them. And so I think in that sense, you can definitely try squads out and we encourage everyone to do it, but maybe, it will lead to more communities actually finding their sort of DAO way and structuring internally. But, definitely don't think that if you are onboarded onto squads and now you have on-chain voting, that just by virtue of that, you have like a functioning DAO, right? We're just providing tools for you guys to kind of, have some things simpler, some things easier, some things, on chain. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is not Web3. A lot of it is just pure coordination work and, social work, working with communities, working with people. So I would advise to think a lot more about that. And, we'll do a better job in communicating that. We'll have some content out there to explain kind of how we would probably do it, right? And actually set out those sort of steps, right? But and yeah, I think at this stage, just we're glad that there's interest and we love the support from the NFT communities. I think it generally brings more awareness to the DAO space on Solana, and many people are, figuring out, like we get a lot of questions in DMs, like what and like how does it work, and it's exciting that more people are finding out, and actually, I hope it will result in more DAOs just coming up on Solana. So that's what probably my advice for NFT guys, that definitely come to us, talk to us. Even if if you think you're not there, talk to us and we'll explain to you the way we kind of see it and try and help you build a better governance framework for your community. And I think we're obviously also happy to onboard you. And we're not taking any fees here. It's only network fees. It's just this is something that we're just doing for everyone to use and just to bring those tools finally to Solana. And in terms of sort of V2, I think it's a lot more accessible in a sense, because it's like, if you're a group of 3 or 4 people, you want to pool resources together and do something with it and have that all sort of recorded on chain. It's a lot simpler, right? It can be used sort of for personal reasons. It can be used for team reasons, right? If joining a hackathon, you're not gonna sign a founders agreement or incorporate, but you can have this governance framework. You can vote and think, shall we build that? Shall we build this? Have it all in those proposals, right? And so I think those are great use cases that, like, on a personal level would resonate. Then on like a team level, if you are managing treasuries are managed from Phantom, so some individual wallets are just holding like group funds, and it's based on trust. So obviously here you can a squad can actually be up to a few thousand members if you want. So if you want this sort of batch tooling where you can add like a few thousand people, we have it. So we will be able to onboard like a very big squad as well. So the point is that that can be used for treasury management. I think that would be helpful. And then for DAOs, they can use it for departmentalization, right? To vote on Discord, for instance. Let's say these 5 people are doing partnerships. These five people are doing collaborations for us, and set them up with these squads, which is sort of really cheap and accessible. And then all of the links to squads are public, so anyone can see what proposals they vote on, and that will essentially allow to have a more focused governance within your DAO, right? To have these people split into groups focused on specific areas. So I think for V2 there's more use cases, and we expect it kind of to be a good combination, right, with V1. So like you can have a larger DAO voting on chain on things on a DAO level, and then have these squads at the bottom dealing with day-to-day stuff and on sort of specific areas. So I guess, on both fronts, just reach out to us. We're really available and the team on the communication side to talk to everyone, and we're trying to kind of do our best there. So definitely reach out. We'll find a governance framework for you. I'll let you know that we have something coming that will be useful.
Nice. Straight up for the community. That's what I'm talking about. Question on like the coding side, I guess, and might make some time, might not, because I'm not a coder at all. Because I know you said you're in the Ethereum wise. I guess writing the contract stuff like that, is it like that much quicker? You know what I mean, on the Solana side of, I guess, writing the things on there on that end, or how does that affect, or does it affect if there's, like you said, 1,000 people, voting on this compared to 5 or 10 people? Does that change?
Well, I mean, the point is that kind of V1 is the complexity there is that we have to onboard communities manually, because there's we need to match the Metaplex data and do the gate. So that's where our involvement comes in. But on V2, it's just you connect your wallet, and the flow for creating a squad is pretty much as easy as starting a group chat, right? It's just a few screens, you pick support, you pick quorum, a couple of seconds, and you hit deploy, and that's that, and you have that. It's kind of like setting up a wallet, right, in many ways. You don't have a seed phrase, but there's just a couple of settings there. You name it, you put a description in, and that's fully permissionless, right? So we're not involved in that. And once you hit deploy and the squad is created, it's fully autonomous, right? You control it by votes, right? And so if you have 5 people and 4 of them lose their access to their wallets, there's no way to do anything with the squad, right? Same with the wallet, right? So there's no way to recover it. So you need to make sure that you're definitely you keep access to those wallets that grant you access to the squad. So I think on that front, like if it's generally like a smaller team of 15, 20 people, it's pretty straightforward, right? You can add, I think, up to 10 initial members, just insert their public keys, and then you can just vote in actually unlimited amounts, right? Like 1,000 if you want. Just will take you a while to vote, but we imagine that like the development process for a squad will happen like you have a group of 10, then you add more people as you go along, and it can grow, but it's not going to happen one day. So but at the same time, right, if you have a Discord of a few thousand and you don't have an NFT or you don't have a token, and but you want to kind of create a squad, we have sort of special separate tooling, which we're going to help you out with, where you can actually get public keys of a few thousand members, essentially in one click. They'll all transition into a private kind of squad that we have on V2. But we don't expect this to be used too much, just because if you have 2,000 people in this kind of locked DAO, that will mean like any vote will take ages, right? And not much can be done. So it's more about having these more focused and tight groups that actually are, core contributors or core members doing things, and like they're focused on what they're doing. So I think, and it's gonna, when it comes to dealing with funds and managing funds, I think it shouldn't be, at least at this level, right, like a few thousand people controlling it. It should some kind of core group that's trusted to do it. So it should be pretty straightforward, but we're going to be around to onboard anyone and help with the process. But we hope that V2 will have less pressure on us, because it's actually like really straightforward, tons of tooltips, just do it yourself, and you don't need us to get there. I mean, if you can set up a Discord server, you'll be fine with setting this up. It's in many ways simpler.
Nice. I kind of mentioned it kind of beforehand, because I'm sure some people are going to be listening, maybe not right this second, but in general, who are either new into the scene or not into the scene. People that I guess want to find information on that, is it best to find y'all on like the Twitter, at just Twitter, or I guess the Discord? Where's best to find information, or I guess those type of things about y'all?
Well, I mean, it's probably best to do it on, start with Twitter. We have a new landing page with some more links, right? So we've got our announcements on sort of Discord and Twitter. They kind of match. And then there's Medium blog, which we're going to sort of expand with more content stuff. So I'd probably stay with, Twitter, Discord, and Medium. Those probably are the best places. And I mean, in terms of our blog, we hope that it will just have general value, not just for squads, but like value for the communities. So like people know things about governance and feel like, they've learned something that can help them to set up a DAO or run their DAO better. So that's the plan for that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good value. You know what I mean? Because I know some people again do know what it is, and some people um, don't. You know what I mean? It might be something. Some people that's been in
Totally.
the space for like in a minute might take for granted, like, oh, like how do you not know? You know what I mean? And some people are just straight up they don't know. You know, like, break it down to me. You know, so things like that I think
Sure.
would be good in general. Question I do ask a lot of it's usually been project like NFT projects that came along. Um, what type of I guess not necessarily problems, but like hiccups, you know, I guess roadblocks to an extent. Have y'all came I guess against with
Hmm.
squads, and then how did y'all overcome them, or I guess plan to?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger one is like when we started this kind of NFT voting, NFT-based voting, we were like the voting model was the most complicated part, right? So we needed to figure out like how is the voting power allocated, right? Is it one NFT, one vote, or is it one member, one? And
Mm.
if you unpack it, like one member, one reality wallet, one vote, right? Because that's the only way we can identify you, right? So it becomes a lot more complicated if you have one wallet, one vote, because people can transfer NFTs from from one wallet to the other,
Mm.
and so then it becomes an issue of how do you prevent them voting a couple of times with the same NFT. So one NFT, one vote is actually the most secure way because first we know the total mint amount, so we know that's the baseline for the quorum, right? So we can also set the quorum and know exactly what it should be. At the same time, we can, as soon as you voted with one NFT, cross it out, and you can never vote with it again on the same proposal. So it's really secure in terms of gaming the system, right? But
Mm.
obviously, it has disadvantages to some communities because, first of all, it kind of encourages whales, right? Like the more NFTs you have, the more voting power you have. And I think the middle ground we kind of found there, it's not like it's not we did it intentionally, but the way architecture works is because you have to vote with each NFT multiple, like if you have 10 NFTs or if you have 10 birds in your wallet, you can vote 10 times, but you need to sign a transaction every time, and the fee is really small. But if you have like 100, that amounts to something. And we kind of felt like, yeah, it's there because the architecture needs it, but at the same time it's kind of a whale protection feature. Like it's, if you could vote with 100 NFTs just like paying 0.001 sol, that would be like really well encouraging, right? But in our
Right.
architecture, at least you need to sign like 100 transactions, so that's gonna prevent that, right? And so we saw it as kind of a middle ground. If you really want to invest in this vote, you can, but also like there's some barriers. So that was the hardest part, and we get some feedback from communities that they want this flexibility. And I think obviously ideally we'd also love that, like you can, when they create a vote, you pick, right? Like is it one member, one vote? Is it one wallet, one vote? And there's also, like, from a technical perspective, there is a way to do one wallet, one vote, but that means like we need to constantly track movement of NFTs from different wallets to new ones to make sure like that we know that the gate works properly, basically. And so
Mm.
it's not really a gate. I don't think it's the correct way. It's just like you actually, it's more like you're actually voting with your NFT. So that's different, right? It's not like we're not giving you access anywhere. We're giving you an opportunity to vote with your NFT. So that's a different, I think, mechanic. And yeah, so that
Gotcha.
was like the main part at the outset. And then like in general, some communities feel like the fees are too excessive. Which like I think like there was some 5,000 NFT community, and they said if the whole community votes, that would be like $5,000 in fees,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a bit less. But the point is, vote, right? The quorum, like for most communities, set at like 5 to 10%. So really, for the whole like 300 or 500 members to vote, it's like $50 divided by 500. So it's actually
Okay.
not that much. But I guess on a day-to-day basis, if you need to vote on many things, right, that would amount to certain cost, right? And considering many people that come to Solana haven't experienced, $30 to do something like even tiny on Ethereum, for them, even this 0.001 sol could be problematic, and we totally get it. And so we're working on sort of batch votes and way to essentially minimize the costs there as well. And yeah, we're thinking about how to achieve it. So those are probably the two main points. And then I think some of the communities have asked to actually remove the when the vote is still active, to remove the results. So like there's no what's it called, like sheep intention voting, right? So, like if you see that people are voting in a particular direction, oh, I'm gonna go with the crowd.
Just
So
go
it's like
opposite. Mm-hmm.
or like opposite, yeah. Yes, it's like there's no of that concern. I know some communities have different thoughts on that, so some actually want to see the current results. So I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, those are probably the main points. And we're planning to overcome like the fee stuff probably will be easier, and the voting allocation is more complicated. So we'll have to think. I don't want to like. There's a way to get it to do it right, and but it's not the way I like. Is like they'll have to deposit NFTs somewhere and get like a token that grants them certain voting power in return. And that will actually allow us to have more complicated voting power allocation. But also, I don't want them to deposit those NFTs, right? People like NFTs are sort of, they're not tokens, like they're non-fungible, like people attach to them. If they need to deposit them and get some token to vote and then get them back, I mean, we'll have to see. There's different models for it. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting experiment for us. And we're just trying to get as much feedback as we can to make sure that like the product fits the needs of the not the larger communities, but like the consensus essentially. And so we'll try to get there as soon as possible for sure.
Question is something, I guess, I guess it's possible, but is something like that possible where, I guess, say one DAO wants to have it where they can see like the vote, stuff like that. One DAO says it's not. Is that something that y'all squads in general can make happen, or is it just like a one or another type ordeal?
No, definitely. I mean, that's what we're, right now.
That's what it's for.
Really, really simple voting client, but down the line, like we're gonna, and you'll see on sort of V2. V2 is a lot more modular, right? There's a lot more settings that you can set, and the reason is because we're easier for us because we're not using any existing NFTs or tokens, right? We're creating a separate new entity for specific wallets, right? For specific members, so it's easier for us to make it more modular. While you're dealing with already existing NFT mint, it's a bit more restrictive and we need to like be more careful. But yeah, I'm sure like down the line, that's what's going to happen. Like it's going to be a lot more customizable. You can, have different settings there. And with things like hiding voting information, it's mostly UI stuff. So like we're not going to be hiding things off chain, right? So it's still like the votes are going to be on chain. So it's more like client side solution. So that's probably the simplest one to achieve. Yeah. And then with like voting power, have to be more complex. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Nice. I gotcha. I'm gonna ask a couple more questions because we are getting we're kind of like the last episodes. We went past that the 30-minute marker, which again I enjoy because they go quick. Because honestly, I'm learning things like that. I'm excited to have you all on here.
Awesome. Man.
From I guess because you said y'all been talking a lot with different communities, things like that. I guess one thing is not one thing. What is one thing that y'all are super excited about that you think people are sleeping on, and or if people aren't sleeping on it, I guess what is the most thing that projects are excited about?
I think the most like the thing that projects are most excited about is just I think it's having more tools for effective governance. I think that's what most communities want. And 100%. I think it's, modularity, customizability. So, I mean, those are quite general, and I apologize if that's, not specific enough, but no, yeah. I guess that's sort of the point, right? Like and that's why we want to have sort of more output there, right? Like we want to have different, that's why sort of V1 and V2 are kind of different, right? And the idea there is like to allow more useful tools for communities to kind of have their governance structures in a more complex way, have it set up in a more complex way. So I think that's what probably we're going to try and go that way. And we hope that more DAO tools, that more projects are actually doing DAO tooling on Solana, just because like right now we're like there's Solana Labs efforts and they're doing things which are I think just starting to look great. And then there's like our side, which is more on like retail and NFT focus, and hopefully, in a few months, it will be more crowded and will allow us to have some more, breathing room and focus on sort of specific areas. Because we also, you can like look at DAOs and their needs, and you feel like, damn, like they really need this, they really need that, and like it's distracting, like because you wanna more use cases and help them, in more ways, and so we hope that more people actually realize that, and that's what I guess people are sleeping that. There are no DAO tools on Solana aside from us, Grape, and some Solana Labs efforts. And if you look on the ETH side, it's just, and also it's kind of like the new tools push more DAO creation. And so like it's not just, because on Ethereum there are more DAOs, that's why there are more tools. It's kind of works both ways, right? So if you have more good tools, there's still gonna, but gonna be more DAOs that stand up to that. And so I think I'm looking forward to it in sort of the next quarter and the end of this one.
Nice. I guess honestly, kind of last question is in general for both of you. Just because again, I don't want to be taking your whole days up or anything like that.
No worries, man.
Were there any points or any questions that I haven't really asked that y'all I guess want the community to know about or anything like that, or in any last key features, anything like that you want us to I guess let us know about? Maybe not features, but just things in general.
I think we, I kind of mentioned this before, but I think it would be great for the community to kind of not afraid to ask questions, and not just about the tools, but more about like on more theoretical things, right? Like how to set up a DAO, how to manage it internally, and like we'd love to kind of explore it together. So it's not because like we're so smart and great. It's more about like we know how DAO tools work on ETH. We know how DAOs work there. Not as great, not all should be like, but there are lessons to be learned from that. And so I guess like what we'd like the community to know is that like, yeah, come to us and reach out, and we'll try and help you figure out your sort of DAO needs together, right? Because it's not easy and it's really different for each DAO. And so we're hoping that, as the ecosystem matures, that there's going to be more people that like have experience with that and can help actually structuring it. So, and those, community managers, which are really important for many projects, are actually, their role is going to elevate significantly, because now it's going to be like coordinating a lot more things than just kind of, Discord, and it's gonna get the community manager role is kind of undervalued, because if you're transitioning your project from a community to like a full functioning DAO, then it's they're going to play a huge role. So I guess also keep track of your community managers, and they feel valued because they're going to be playing a larger role in the future.
You heard it. I guess both of y'all, if you want to, I guess where can people find y'all on Twitter if you want to give that information out? I guess the personal handle's there, or if you just want to shout out the regular squads one, where can people find y'all at?
I think we'd rather shout out the squads accounts. It's not really about us. So just reach out on Discord, follow us on Twitter, and hopefully really soon you'll be able to read stuff on our blog that will be helpful, and not just going to be showing our updates and projects. So hopefully it's gonna do some good. And yeah, I mean, our personal accounts are pretty moderate. So probably the more fun stuff is we're trying to focus on squads. Yeah, I mean, Danny, unless you want to show your personal handle.
Guys, we're building 24/7. Our main account is Twitter, and as Stepan said, we're welcome to answer all your questions on Discord, on Twitter, because we really want the feedback. Like me and Stepan, we didn't anticipate that anonymous voting, for example, would be something that people would want from day one, but it's what people want. It's what people want. So just come when DevNet version releases. Come to our app. Check it out, all the features, and just dump all your questions to Discord, and we'll try to answer everything.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
Well, on that note, guys, if you don't mind just staying here for a quick second, I'm going to end it up on this end. Thank y'all, though, very much for coming in and letting us and the community in general know about squads, and thank you for that. So stick around real quick. For everyone else that's coming in and tuning in, listen, I want to thank y'all for coming in as well and listening. So shout out to everyone. Again, it is the ThugBirdz Podcast. Episode 24. Shout out to squads _D app. Give them a follow on Twitter, and go ahead and follow them on their Discord as well. Till next time, don't forget to follow ThugBirdz on Twitch as well, and don't forget to download that FT app today. Till next time, y'all. Caw-caw!